Hello lads and lasses and everybody else who's watching this video. Today I'm gonna be showing you how to make some sick synth sounds like this. So this is a song by my band, October Ends. It's called Destroy a Soul. It's from our album Phases. Check it out. And in this episode I'm gonna be breaking down for you how I made the intro of this song, and I'm gonna be breaking down the sound design process behind a couple of the sounds. The title of today's video, which I haven't decided what's it gonna be yet, but it's gonna be something about modern metal or metalcore or whatever. So the angle for that is that modern metal bands, they either have their production nowadays based on synths, or if you don't like these bands, there's bands who have like less synths. They're not very synth based, but the synths are there in the production, and sometimes they're there in like non-obvious ways. So for example, sometimes you'll hear some like really fat guitar sound, and that might be layered with synths, and this is a non-obvious way of using synths in a modern metal production. And then obviously the more obvious ways is to either have whole sections of songs that are based on synths, or there's other examples of just like having the typical like metal production, not layered with synths, but like with synths being dominant as like either lead sounds, or maybe they have pads, or maybe they have arpeggiated sounds, or all of those different variations. And this is what this video today is about. So without further ado, let's dive into making some sounds. So here I've got the intro that I've already told you about. Song Destroy a Soul one more time from my band October Ends. This version is probably gonna sound a little bit different than the final version that you heard on the intro, and this is because when I do sound design, I have a separate project for that, because I have so many instances of synths open here, and all of these are actually, I'm using them in oversampling mode so that the quality is as high as possible. And in the end, my actual mixing projects are all like so complicated, and my computer wouldn't be able to handle it, and it has 16 cores. So what I do, I have a project where I do the sound design with the synths, percussion, and the way I imagine them to be in the song, and then I bounce all of that and put them in as audio files into the mixing project. Right, so let's take a listen to what I've got here. Right, so this here is the intro of the song. You can take a listen to the whole song in the description, cards, or whatever. So I'm gonna start by breaking down the sound that comes into the last section of this part. So it's gonna be this sound right here. Right, so this is a kind of cyberpunky like lead sound. You can also use it for like EDM type leads and whatever else you want. This is a sound more commonly used in like industrial, dancey music, electronic, but it can very well fit into metalcore and modern metal. The composition behind this sound is literally, I've programmed this synth to play the exact same thing with the guitar riff that comes right after this part. So this is the intro of the song, and this riff is playing the exact same guitar riff as the guitars right after that, which I don't have here. I don't have the guitars and the rest of the instruments here, but again, you can take a listen to the whole song to see how everything's blended together. The synth that I'm using 95% of the times is Serum. Sometimes, very few times, when I can't get a sound that I have in my head or a sound that I heard and wanna copy somehow, I might use Omnisphere, but that's like very rare. I usually get every sound that I want out of Serum. I would recommend everyone buying and investing in a VST like Serum. Let's see what I've done with this one. Right, I'm gonna loop this one right here. So you see there's some movement in this waveform. So if you just go into, I'm gonna do that for you so you can recreate the same patch. I'm gonna find an actual saw. I'm gonna do the basic shapes and then, right, so I'm gonna change the WT position. So this is what it is by default. I'm gonna put it on 2. Right, so this, if you're not familiar with sound design, this is a saw waveform. So the thing that's going on here in this waveform is I've put the band plus minus. So you see that blue dot here that's moving every time this thing is triggered, and let me find out what it's being triggered from. So in order to make a digital synth sound warmer and nicer and less digital, as the word says, you have to do a lot of modifications and play around with the waveforms and basically create some errors that you would encounter in analog synths. And there's many things you can do. What I've done here with this saw waveform is I'm using the band plus minus to change the shape of the waveform. So if you just go here and click on band plus minus, this is what you get. And then I'm using an envelope filter that I'm sending. You can literally drag the envelope filter on the band plus minus. You'll drag it here, and then you can tell it how much motion you want it to do. I've set it here from 0 to 50, and this, when you see the waveform have this curve right here, it makes it a little bit fatter. It gives it a little bit of low end, which is pretty cool. And I've also detuned this synth on 0.23, and then I've added the unison from 1, which is default, to 8. And this is what I've done with this oscillator. Moving on to oscillator B, it's again a saw waveform. It's almost the exact same waveform as in oscillator A, only it's a little bit different. And that, like all those small differences in the waveforms and like the movement is what makes a more analog sound, a sound that has like a little bit better quality, and doing loads of those things, in the end they all add up to make a beautiful high quality synth sound. So what I've done with oscillator B, I'm using the MB saw waveform. So if you go on the analog, you'll find the MB saw here. With this one, I'm using the same envelope, but in a different way. I'm using the sync option here, and if I move it around, this is what happens. So again, it gives a little bit of movement to the waveform, and if I play back the sound, you'll see what it's doing again. So this is what I'm doing with this envelope and this waveform. Very simple, unison on 1. On this one, the tune doesn't matter because it's only the unison is in 1. Then what else am I using? I'm using a sub. The oscillator of the sub is an octave below the other 2 oscillators. It's a simple saw waveform, nothing else on it. The only thing that there is on it is this envelope goes on the volume, on the level. So literally all you have to do is just drag this envelope here on the level, and then you just need to set the amount of the level changes that you want it to do. 4th oscillator is the noise oscillator. This is the limit. You can have up to 4 oscillators with Serum. The noise oscillator is this sound called H breath. You can go on the organics and find the H breath here. I'm gonna play it back for you to see what this one sounds like by itself. And that adds a little bit of character to the sound and makes it a little bit more interesting. What I've done with this noise oscillator is I've pitched it up by 25 semitones, and I also have this option enabled here, which allows the pitch here to follow the notes you're playing on the MIDI. So it sounds more like an instrument and not just like a static noise. So all these 4 oscillators are going through the filter. The filter has a few automations on it. Right, so the envelope filter, this envelope filter is going to this cutoff filter. So literally, again, you just drag and drop the envelope and you just drag and drop it on the cutoff filter. The filter that I'm using is just a normal low pass MG low 12. And the cutoff frequency is automated. And with the cutoff filter, as I'm going to show you, I've done some automation so it opens up as it going towards the end. So to do that kind of automation, you just go on the you just need to turn on the automation tab on Logic. If you're in another DAW, you have to know how to do it. So you just need to go here in Serum, the filter cutoff here, fill cutoff. So it's this one. As you can see, the filter starts off at 126 Hz and it goes as high as 1.7K. Let's take a listen again to what this sounds like. So, as you can clearly hear, the filter opens up and it makes, it lets more high frequencies come in. And then another automation that I've done is on the resonance here. So, I'm gonna turn off the automation here and I'm just gonna show you what the resonant filter does. So I'm gonna turn off the automation here and then I'm gonna set the cutoff a little bit higher. I'm gonna play with the resonant filter for you to see what this does exactly. So this is the sound without any automation on the resonant filter. So if I turn this up, you can see it literally just creates a resonant filter, kind of like notch. And that is what I've done, basically, the automation that I've done in the song. So the resonant filter kind of makes the sound like it gives it that like on the top end, which is fun. If I have if I set the cutoff filter low, boosting the resonance filter is gonna sound weird, but the higher you go into the spectrum, like if I move the cutoff filter up to here it's gonna sound okay, but down here it's gonna sound like shit, and this is why I had to automate it, and I'm gonna demonstrate to you what it sounds like with the filter down here and the resonant filter high. So it basically makes the sound like shit, but the higher you go, the more you can get away with it, and it kind of actually adds a little bit of extra movement to the sound and makes it more livelier. Right, so this is what I've done with the oscillators and the filter, and then so first thing in the chain is an equalizer. Very simple. It's literally just a low cut. I'm low cutting at 128 hertz. The Q is set to 50, gain is set to 0. Moving on, there's this hyperdimension effect, which is amazing. Oh, actually, I'm gonna turn these on again. So yeah, I have this hyperdimension filter, which is pretty cool. What I've done with it is I have the rate on 40%, 0 detune, unison at 7, mix 37, then size at 31, mix on 35. This one kind of adds a little bit of depth to the sound, and it kind of extra detunes the sound a little bit. And this is useful to have when you're using the sub oscillator and the noise oscillator, because you don't have the ability to use the unison option like you can do on the oscillator A and B. So if you have the other two oscillators that you can't like detune with the unison, it's useful to have this hyperdimension plugin in the chain, which kind of creates a similar effect, but also this dimension thing, it adds a little bit of space to the sound. I'm gonna take it to 100% for you and see what this sounds like. So you can tell it's like it adds a little bit of depth and, as it says, dimension, and it makes it a little bit like what it would sound like if it was recorded with a mic in an actual room. Not an actual room, but kind of gives off that vibe. So I'm gonna take it back to 37%, and I'm gonna play it back again one more time with and without. Right, big difference, big improvement with hyperdimension. Then there's a compressor set to multi-band here. There's the option here to use this compressor as a normal compressor. And if you check this option here, it works as a multi-band compressor. I'm just gonna go through the settings for you. The threshold is all the way up, ratio all the way up. So it's not a compressor anymore. It works as a limiter. And then the attack is at 183 milliseconds, release at 42 milliseconds, gain as high as 26.7 dB. And then I'm having a chorus effect. Really quickly, I'm gonna go through the settings. Rate 0.08, delay 5.7, delay 2, 1.9 milliseconds, depth 25.9 milliseconds, feed 9 or maybe 8, I think I moved it, no, 9%. And then low pass frequency, low pass filter, and then low pass filter at 1000 hertz, mix on 30%. And then last, there's a simple filter right here. I'm using the MG Low 6, cutoff set to 9.6K, resonance at 22%, drive at 9%, fat at 16, and then the rest is as it was on default. So this is it with this patch. If you want to have all of these sounds that you just heard, all the synth sounds, all of the percussion sounds, and all of the effects, you've heard in this song and in every other song in my band's album called Phases, I've put together a pack which has all of these synth sounds. And this pack is not one of these packs that has hundreds of sounds that like 90% of them are unusable and they sound like crap. All of the sounds that you're gonna find in this pack are the sounds that I used actually in our album Phases. And you know that the quality is gonna be great because you can actually preview all of these sounds in the album, and they're being demonstrated in an actual final product. Like if you put these exact sounds in your mix, you're gonna know what your final result is gonna sound like. So if you want to purchase it, just go in the description of this video. You're gonna find demonstrations of all the sounds that the pack includes and also instructions on how to purchase it. Thank you for watching. If you want to support me, go check out my band's album Phases. It's out by UNFT Records, and then also purchase my synth pack. See you later.